UCLA beat USC, and Chip Kelly just might have saved his job with this win, because coming up the week leading up to this game, there were reports that came out that said that UCLA was going to part ways with Chip Kelly after this game concluded, and the athletic director came out and denied those reports. He said that they were really disrespectful, unprofessional, but I don't really know. Okay, because, Chip Kelly, he does have a not so great record at UCLA, but that's mostly stemming from him struggling out the gate his first couple of years at UCLA. But the last 3 seasons, he's been really good. They're on pace to win 8 games this year if they're able to win their bowl game. And I didn't even expect UCLA to be a 7-8 win team this year. I kind of thought they would be a 6-win team. I thought they were kind of in rebuild mode, losing DTR and Zach Charbonnet to the NFL last year. And you bring in Dante Moore. He was great the first couple of games, and then after that, he looked awful. So you got to make some quarterback changes. And this was a pretty good season for UCLA and a really great win. UCLA, they made USC look soft in this game. USC, to their credit, their defense played a pretty good game. This probably is the best performance that the Trojans have gotten out of their defense all season long, but their offense just went flat in this game. Caleb Williams, he had a solid game, but it hasn't been on the level of the other games that we've seen him have in the past. It definitely isn't anything close to the game that he had against Washington. And then you had 2 costly fumbles by Zachariah Branch and Marshawn Lloyd. So when 2 of your best players are giving up the football, that's just a sign that it's just not a great day for you offensively. UCLA, defensively, they were getting after Caleb Williams, harassing him all game long. And not just were they the more physical team on the defense side of the football, but on the offense side as well, they had some really big physical runs in this game. TJ Harden was averaging 6.5 yards per carry. He was running guys over, running through guys. USC's defense did not want to tackle this dude, and I don't blame him because he's a freight train. Carson Steele also had a couple of nice runs as well. Going into the Big Ten next season, if Chip Kelly does remain in UCLA, this is a program that many people need to start paying more attention to. When you think of Chip Kelly's teams, you think of finesse, you think of a team that likes to win on the perimeter with speed, but that's kind of the Chip Kelly that we saw when he was coaching at Oregon. The Chip Kelly that we see now at UCLA, he's completely changed his offensive philosophy. It's not about winning with speed and winning on the perimeter anymore. It's about being physical. And one thing that UCLA's teams have been the last 3 years under Chip Kelly is really physical, really tough. And a team like USC that kind of makes their killing with having great receivers and having a lot of speed on the field and being a finesse team, this just was one of those games where styles make fights, and UCLA's style of play just wasn't suited for USC to be able to find a way to win out this game, because you got to be able to win up front. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much speed you have at receiver, how much talent you have at quarterback, if you're not able to win the line of scrimmage. And UCLA, they had all the answers for USC up front. USC defensively, yeah, they weren't bad, but it just was one of those performances that you look at Lincoln Riley, and you now got to start saying that going into 2024, he definitely is on the hot seat. Without a doubt. His tenure at USC up to this point has been a major disappointment. Yeah, last season, they won double-digit games, but you lost to Tulane in the New Year's Six Bowl game. And this season, you have really high expectations. People were expecting you to be able to make it back to the national championship picture, and many people felt like you were locked to make it to the college football playoffs. But not only do you miss out on making it to the playoffs, but you also don't make it into the Pac-12 championship game, which is a major disappointment when you look at how easy it is to recruit at USC and the talent that they brought in from the transfer portal. Lincoln Riley's teams just aren't physically tough. And going into the Big Ten next season, that's going to be a huge issue for them. They're going to have to be able to change their mentality. When you got to go up against teams like Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State, you got to be able to be ready to go to war. You got to be ready to be in for a dogfight. And USC isn't a team that's able to win dogfights. UCLA, on the other hand, I think they could have more success next season in the Big Ten than what people initially are thinking if Dante Moore is able to take big steps in his development over the course of this offseason. I don't think the dude's awful. I'm not going to write him off. It's just that he probably wasn't ready to play right away in his first season as a true freshman, regardless of how highly touted he was coming out of high school. This definitely was a season where he probably could have used to redshirt like Arch Manning, learn the system, get more acclimated to the speed of the game, because going from high school football to college football in the span of the year is a really hard adjustment to make, and not just every true freshman quarterback can be Trevor Lawrence and be a phenomenally their true freshman season. Sometimes it takes guys a couple of years to make that adjustment from high school ball to collegiate ball, and I think you can probably say that to be true with Dante Moore. But UCLA has a really promising future under Chip Kelly. I get why some UCLA fans may want this dude fired because he doesn't really have a great overall win-loss record with UCLA football. But his first 3 seasons, it took him a while to get this program off the ground. But his last 3 seasons, I mean, when you look at his record, the last 3 seasons to his first 3 years at UCLA, it's night and day. I never understood why UCLA would even entertain getting rid of Chip Kelly. His only problem has been his reluctance to get rid of the previous defensive coordinator. Now you got Anthony Lynn's sons, DeAnton Lynn, who probably is going to be a hot candidate to be a defensive coordinator for a lot of other programs this offseason. I'm really interested in seeing if UCLA is going to be able to keep this guy around, because he's did God's work with this defense. You know, this pass rush has been really great all season long. And USC and Lincoln Riley, you drastically need to overhaul that defense. Not just do you need to bring in a new defensive coordinator, but you probably need to bring in some more big boys up front, and you got to recruit better. And a lot of people say that the problem with USC's defense isn't just talent, but it's also an attitude problem, because Lincoln Riley doesn't put a lot of emphasis on that. And the way that Lincoln Riley runs his team and operates his practices aren't really built towards physicality and preaching that style of football. You see, UCLA is one of those bully ball teams. They want to bully you up front. They want to be more physically dominant, and they want to impose their will against you. USC, they want to do all these flashy highlight reel throws and have all these highlight reel catches downfield, and they want to make a lot of things happen after the catch. But when you match them up against a physical football team like a UCLA or a Utah, they look outmatched up front. So until USC is able to get more tougher, I don't think they're going to have too much success under Lincoln Riley until they kind of have that philosophical flip. That's something that this program is missing. That's something that Lincoln Riley teams have never had. They've never been tough. They've never been physically imposing up front. Although they do have talented offensive linemen, he has had some really good offensive lines in the past, but they haven't really been offensive lines that are known to maul you to the ground like Georgia or Michigan or even Notre Dame and UCLA. So UCLA and Chip Kelly got a really big win over USC and Lincoln Riley. USC was a 6.5-point favorite coming into this game. And you would have thought that USC would have been able to win this game and force UCLA to just move on from Chip Kelly. But this win probably kept Chip Kelly around and UCLA for the time being. But I never felt like they should have thought about moving on from him anyway, unless you were going to upgrade and bring in Jimbo Fisher. And I don't even know if Jimbo Fisher is that big of an upgrade when you think about how much of a disappointment his tenure at Texas A&M was. He pretty much fell on his face at A&M in College Station. So I don't really think that Jimbo Fisher would have been that big of an upgrade over Chip Kelly. And I think that Chip Kelly is a really good coach. He's on pace to have another 8-win season. The last 3 years, he's won 8 games or more. UCLA definitely is a program that's starting to trend upwards, and they don't really have all the resources that USC has. You see, Chip Kelly, What a lot of people don't really talk about is how he kind of has overachieved at UCLA. They don't have top-notch facilities. This program doesn't put a lot of money into the football program, at least enough money need be to be able to compete with some of the top programs in the nation. That's why the recruiting kind of isn't able to be better, and that's why they got to utilize the transfer portal so much. If USC was, just as invested into the football program as a school like Ohio State and Michigan, okay, then you probably would expect for Lincoln Riley, his job to definitely be on the hot seat. But this is a program that has been down for the last couple of years, and outside of last season, there hasn't really been too many other great seasons that USC has had in the past. So Lincoln Riley, I just think based on his first season alone, that's going to be enough to keep him around and buy him at least 2 more years, even if next season is another disappointment. But I doubt that Lincoln Riley's going to be fired if USC disappoints again in 2024. I think he at least has 2 more years to prove himself and turn things around and get the Trojans into national championship contention. Meanwhile, for UCLA, Chip Kelly, as I mentioned earlier, this is a program that isn't really all dialed in on football. They put a lot of money into the basketball program, but the football program doesn't really get that same treatment. So I think that Chip Kelly has overachieved at UCLA in a sense. And now with this program starting to put a little bit more emphasis and a little bit more attention towards the football program, they could be trending upwards. And I like this program's trajectory heading into the Big Ten. UCLA beats USC 38-20, final game of the season.